I have one last thought, which is kind of a segue.
Oh, okay, lovely, fantastic. Do it.
You don't have to do it. I'm going to do it for you. So what we were saying earlier about like the flag smashers and how, you know, they've discovered this new language of violence because it's the only thing that people listen to. Well, you know, we get a whole other side. I've got a blanket on because it's cold. We get the whole other side of that in the Clone Wars.
That was the best segue we've ever done.
I've been trying to keep my blanket out of shot, but then I put it in shot during that and was like, oh no. So I'm just...
It's okay.
Hiding it.
You would have just not mentioned it.
I mean, you're Matt's in his Jedi robes, aren't you?
It's true, yeah, I'm in my... yeah.
But no, we have, you know, the whole other side of that with the Lerman. Are they Lerman? The Lima men?
Yes, so just for a bit of context as we now segue into this, because I've got a feeling that if this is a YouTube cut down, you're going to be completely lost. We are back reviewing the Clone Wars week to week. I know we've had a little break. We were out of town. No, we weren't really out of town. I was just quoting Tony Stark from the first Iron Man film. But in the context of COVID, that sounds like we were breaking the rules. We weren't out of town. We were here. But yeah, we've been reviewing Clone Wars week to week. We took a little break, but now we're back to conclude the two-part story that we started, Jedi Crash, this week, Defenders of the Peace. And of course, Anakin and Ahsoka find themselves having to help the Lerman people, including Wag-Tu and their leader. And their whole culture is, as we found out in the first episode, involves pacifism. They won't fight, they won't join the war, but... George Takei's general has, of course, landed on the planet in this episode, and he's got an intriguing new weapon, which will see the Lerman forced to kind of make a decision, decide whether they want to stand with Anakin or not. Did I sum that up okay?
Yeah,
yes,
definitely.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Terry, now that we've got a bit of context for the people just joining us.
No, I thought it was just really interesting, the parallels that it drew to the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and, you know, the whole like flag smash thing, as I said before, they're discovering like this new language of violence because it's the only way people will be listened to. You know, peaceful process doesn't work, and now we get to see like the Lerman discover that, and you know, as it says at the beginning of the episode, you know, when there's a war, you eventually have to pick a side. You eventually have to become part of it. So
that thread of the episode was the most interesting thing. I think that as a two-part on the whole. A bit boring, a bit mediocre. I don't think it's been very visually interesting. Nor do I think the characters have really spoken to me. And it kind of just wraps up. It feels like the whole two-parter is a chance to talk about pacifism and then also set up the weapon that is probably going to come back in later. As an actual story, standalone story, I think it's quite weak. But I do really enjoy... I've got the character's name up. It's Wag-Tu's dad. His name is T-Watka. Let's call him T for short, or T-Bone. So T, the leader, his philosophy is very interesting. I think it's interesting seeing it explored in this episode when it gets to the point where the Separatists have actually ransacked the town. They're going to come back. You know, they're facing certain doom, but he believes that his beliefs are so important and that to break them, you might as well not be alive anyway, so what's the point? And he feels like the underpinnings of their society are so important and they must not get involved. But then also there's the flip side of Wag-Tu saying, oh, you know, like you're just going to let everyone die. At what point do our philosophies and our principles undo us? And at what point should we, you know, just take a step back and say, you know, maybe we should agree with Anakin? And also I love that line from Anakin where he says, when they finally do defend them, T's trying to get them to go away, and he's like, well, we've let you stand by your beliefs of pacifism, now we're going to stand by ours and we're going to defend you, so let us do it.
100%.
I think it's really interesting, especially having the Jedi come and meet the Lerman, because the Lerman hold philosophies that seem to be what the Jedi are going for. You know, that absolute peace, that absolute pacifism, but obviously, you know, when there is a threat, the Jedi have no choice but to take up arms, you know. So I think it's
they say no choice, as you say, but
no, exactly. But then, that's what I mean.
Yeah, then T's actually going like, you know, unless you take pacifism first, unless you go that route and see how it goes, you can't truly call yourselves peacekeepers. You always take up the violent route.
No,
Then
exactly.
it's one of those things, though. Like, sorry, what were you saying?
No, I was just agreeing with you, and it's so ambiguous, isn't it? Like what the right thing to do is, and I think it's ambiguous for all the characters, and especially during a war-torn time. Like, I think it's such a great storyline.
Yeah, and it's a great way of again showing how the smaller communities and planets of the Star Wars universe, as we've seen in earlier episodes, are affected by the big mainline characters that we see in the movies. And this whole planet, their whole way of life is being destroyed just so that one general out of one army can test one weapon. It's not even meant for them, but it's going to ruin their lives. Also,
I just think it's good that they're using the Lermans and that to sort of reflect, like you said, Terry, the Jedi's ways and kind of question, how much. I mean, because obviously the fall of the Jedi and Revenge of the Sith was all because of them sort of sticking too much to their philosophies and not, like when it comes to Anakin's turn and not trying to understand the empathy and love that he had, and work with that sort of thing, if you know what I'm trying to say. And I just like that I like that the Clone Wars does that. It uses like another race and another place to sort of reflect what's happening with the Jedi in a kind of subtle way. And I just thought that was really cool. I really like that. I must admit, I did really enjoy that whole like action bit at the end when they're attacking and they put the shields up and they're shooting the shields, and then you get Ahsoka and Anakin sort of jumping, and they all in that shot together where they all jump down and then they're fighting the droids and the cameras. Like, I thought that was really well like directed actually, that bit. When like they all jumped in together and it was like a big moment. I was like, oh damn, that was actually kind of cool. I wasn't expecting that because I thought the rest of the episode was a bit like, where's this going? And then but I really liked that it addressed those things, and I liked that it said that, like, this is wartime and it's tough to know what's right and wrong when these things happen. I mean, these guys are just brutal. They'll kill anyone just to test a weapon out. So, what does that mean for our philosophy? And I don't know. I liked it as like as an audience and even as the characters just sort of questioning what is right and wrong in this scenario. What do we things get murky. I don't know.
I see. Yeah.
I don't know if I made myself clear there, but
I think you're right, because like even on the most kind of like tedious episodes, there's times when we put an episode on and I'm not really in the mood for Clone Wars that week, and it surprises me and it ends up being fun. And then there's episodes like this where like I wasn't really in the mood for it this week, but I enjoyed it. Wasn't great. Wasn't the worst thing ever, but even at a base level, every Clone Wars episode has a little bit of a moral dimension. There's the characters are always placed in moral dilemmas. There's always something to it. Do you know what I mean? Like,
flesh in the universe.
And you can tell that there's some effort in every episode to sort of give you a little bit more than just Saturday morning cartoon antics. And I do appreciate that.
I was thinking about that with Falcon and Winter Soldier as well. Like, I'm just really enjoying like getting deeper into that world, if that makes sense. And like I've always said that stories based around the Clone Wars and Order 66 and all that are so interesting because we've only seen such a small part of it. So I really like the idea, and I also really like how with Falcon and Winter Soldier we're getting extensions to that world, and we're learning more. So
it's
no,
nice to
I
like
really love that.
It's nice to like recontextualize something. Like with Falcon Winter Soldier, like we're recontextualizing what the shield means and what it would mean to sort of, yes, you're taking up the shield and you're being a superhero, but those colours also mean something else. And like, what does that mean in relation to you tying yourself to a particular nation? And then with this, we've got, what happens if you tie yourself to a particular side? Like, yes, Anakin and Ahsoka, and then I can't remember the third Jedi's name. Background prequel Jedi number 6 from the council scene. All three of them, they're defending these people's homes and they feel like they have an obligation to do that. But at the end, we see the Republic cruisers come overhead and it's like, T was absolutely right. They might have died, but now they get to stay alive and be part of the war. So now they're going to live their lives not seeing, do you know what I mean? Not getting to live his pacifist ways by default. The only thing I'm sad about is he doesn't appear again. That leader character. No, I just feel it's kind of like one of those things. I know, like, we're on like a backwater planet, but it was quite an interesting perspective. I mean, I guess we'll explore it more, the same perspective through other characters.
Yes,
but
possibly.
But it just would have been nice to have seen
a bit more.
What's the fallout going to be of that character and his people in like series 7 or whatever. But I guess we'll never know.
I also thought another interesting thing that was shown. Sorry, Charlie. I'll wrap this up fast. Was like the separate sides arriving on the planet. So, like, obviously the Jedi were trying to be, like, discreet and try not to disturb anybody and just need were there for aid. But then the Separatists come and they don't even be like, hey, we're here to help. Do you want to help? They're like, congratulations, you're now protected by us, even though we're going to destroy you.
Yeah,
and they just come in and they just take and assert their authority.
But then at the same time, you say that, do the Jedi do the same thing? They're just a bit more polite about it. Because they turn up, they take the medical supplies, they turn back up to save them. Yeah, they save them, but then they get their ships in overhead.
They've changed the world irreparably, haven't they? So.
Exactly, and that's now a Republic planet to the Separatists, and that's what really matters. Like they might come back and go, well, that's under Republic control. We're gonna do something about that. So it is interesting in that sense. And it definitely conjures interesting discussions. I just think as an episode and as a two-parter, I wasn't sitting there going, yes! And I didn't have the same sort of, like, edge of my seat tension of, like, Dooku and Anakin and Obi-Wan teaming up against pirates and that kind of stuff. Yeah. Or going through Grievous's lair.
Condensed into one episode, I reckon.
Yeah, definitely. Didn't need to be a two-parter.
Yeah,
definitely felt padded.
That is true.
And when you also think... Sorry, Charlie, go on.
Yeah, no, I was just going to talk about what you said earlier about the recontextualizing, and I was just saying I think that's important when it comes to these TV shows and sequels and stuff, because I think you've got to justify why these things exist. They can't just be giving you more of the same just because you want to see this universe and this world. And I think it's important that these shows, they use the opportunity they have of, having more episodes and more time to spend with these characters to recontextualize things that we've seen in the movies and the world and see it in a different way or a different perspective. And because I think that's what it's all about, really. You got to justify to me why this thing exists, and to do that, I think like you have to do that, in my opinion. Like when you're making a show or expanding in a universe, you can't just give us more of the same. Because
I think when people hear that, they're naturally predisposed to think, oh, it needs some sort of political angle, or it needs to sort of explicitly talk about socially relevant issues. But what we're really saying is it just needs to offer us something fresh and something we haven't seen before. Whatever the intent of the piece of media is, it just needs to be something. Yeah, that's what you mean by a reason to exist. Because it's like, if it's exactly like what we've seen before, if The Force Awakens and The Rise of Skywalker are lesser versions of movies I've seen before, then why do they exist?
It's true. But it's true, you're right. And it's like, it doesn't have to be anything political or anything like that. It could just be seeing something from another perspective of, I don't know, seeing from the victim's point of view or this person's point of view. It's just perspective more than anything. Yeah. And I mean, that's ultimately what stories are. They're just someone's perspective. And I think that, and I just think it's important to show other, other perspectives when you're expanding the universe. Yeah,
like the point of a story is not to try and change your mind or to try and impose a view on you. It's just literally, and as Falcon Winter Soldier does so fantastically, it just gives you a point of view that might make you go, oh, I've never seen something from this perspective before. This is new. This encourages me to think. And I think that's what is successful about these things.
And of course it is, it's a bit of a misnomer to say that, not everything is like political. What I think we in the internet mean by that is ostensibly political. I completely agree with what Lily Wachowski said a little while ago. She said that all art is in some form political by its nature, because even if something doesn't explicitly talk about a political idea or a social idea or an economic idea, by not mentioning it, it is kind of implicit in the status quo. I completely agree with that, because we could have stripped out all the cop angle and all the stuff of Isaiah in the last episode, and then it wouldn't have been like political. But it still, of course, still would be political, but because by cutting those things out, you're saying that they're not a problem and that you want things to stay the same in America. So it it's always a weird angle on the internet, I find, when there's this whole kind of like debate about like, oh, something's become political or something was political in the past. It's like all art deals with that. It's struggled with that since the dawn of time. You know, like everything is about, you know, because it's not they're just expressions of what people think and feel. Politics is going to come through whether you try to put them in or not.
Yeah.
And indeed, the people that complain about politics being in these things are showing their politics as well. So it's all, you know what I mean? Like it's a complete paradox. You can't make things not political. They are everything is in some way politicized by nature. Anyway, that's my rant over. Lily Wachowski's genius. She was completely right to say what she said.
Everything's political.
Any other points on our reinstatement of the Clone Wars weekly reviews? Anything from indeed Defenders of the Peace and Jedi Crash you want to mention before we go?
I feel like I have like heart eyes for a new character each week. My heart eyes character this week is Wag-Tu. It was
Wag-Tu is cute.
It was
His little beanie.
Plo Koon. Is that right? Or is it Plo Koon? Plo
It's
Koon.
Plo
Clooney. It's
Charlie.
Plo Clooney.
I had it right and Charlie ruined it.
It's Plo Clooney, alright?
I'm pretty sure you guys have been driving me mad every week getting it wrong.
It's Charlie.
I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that Star Wars nerd, but I'm pretty sure it's Plo Koon.
Plo Koon. Okay.
Yes, it's Plo Clooney.
Not Plo Kloon, not Po Koon, not Plo Koon. It's no wait, I'm confused now. Is it Plo Koon?
That's the thing. I've forgotten now. I don't know what it is.
Plo Kloon and Plo Clooney is now ingrained in my head.
But anyway, I had heart eyes for him when it was his episode, and now I have heart eyes for Wag-Tu. So
Wag-Tu was great, and also like I do actually like that they used him to stand up to his father and say like I don't believe in this stuff. Like he wasn't just like a funny guest character who can roll around and turn something into a ball.
That was cool. I wish I could roll like that. I'd get everywhere so fast. It's like bye everyone, wee.
They must be really dizzy.
But
yeah,
I suppose they get used to it because they're built to do it. I suppose
that is true. Yeah,
like we're built
they've
to
probably got
swim without drowning or learn to swim without drowning. So I
Yeah.
imagine they can roll without getting dizzy.
Well, before we get too scientific on this space fantasy, I'm going to cut it there and say that you can subscribe and watch my videos on Full Fat Videos and the Full Fat Podcast YouTube channel. Depending on where you're listening to this podcast right now, you might even be watching the cut down, in which case, stay right here. You could follow me on Twitter at Full Fat Videos, and you can follow my digital art page on Instagram at full_fat_videos. And you can also follow me on Letterboxd. I'm pretty sure at Full Fat Videos, or it might be Matt Whittle. Either one. I'll get Harry to bring up the correct version before I segue into Charlie and Terry's socials.
Mr. Lily.
Right, well, you can find me on Your Favourite Film is Awful, where each week we get a guest on to defend their favourite film against negative reviews. You can find us on YouTube at Your Favourite Film is Awful, on Instagram Your Favourite Film is Awful, Facebook Your Favourite Film is Awful, and Twitter at Favfilm is Awful, and on all podcasting platforms as well. And then, like Matt said, if you want to follow me on Letterboxd, you can find me at Charlie Lily. Yeah, just that, really. Charlie Lily. I can't pronounce my own name. It's embarrassing. Or on Instagram, Charlie Lily, or Your Favourite Film is Awful. So, yeah.
Amazing. You can catch me on Instagram as Terry Merkin, Twitter as Merkin Terry, Letterboxd as Terrell, and I'll be streaming tonight if this goes up. But also in random times, I've got less than a minute, on Twitch as Terry Merkin. You can also look at my cut downs on YouTube as Terry Merkin. I also have a Patreon. And I think that's everything.
Yes. Go to these guys' YouTube channels. Your Favourite Film is Awful. Fantastic podcast.
They're in the featured channels for this. You can look them there.
Yes. They're in the featured channels on both Full Fat Videos and the Full Fat Podcast. Check them out. If you want to see cool Battlefront 2, Jedi Fallen Order streams, go to Terry. I'm probably pointing in the exact wrong direction. And if you want to see people defend good films from bad reviews, go to this guy. We'll catch you next week for the Falcon Winter Soldier episode 4 and Clone Wars. Not sure what the title of the episode is. I'll just make it up. The Revenge of the Separatists. That's the episode.
Original.
You heard it here first.